$47 billion cult, the rise and fall of WeWork. In the late 2010s, a company captured the world's imagination, promising to remake how we live, learn, and work. At its height, it was valued around $47 billion. But behind the branding, hype, and promises, another narrative was unfolding, one of devotion, fervor, and collapse. This is the story of WeWork, often called the $47 billion cult. Act 1, Origins, the birth of WeWork. To understand WeWork's rise, we have to go back to Brooklyn in 2008 in the shadow of the global financial crisis. Commercial real estate in New York was struggling. Empty lofts and unused office spaces dotted the city as companies downsized or vanished entirely. At the same time, a new class of workers was emerging: freelancers, independent contractors, and early-stage startups. They didn't fit into the rigid structure of traditional office life, but they needed spaces that were more professional than coffee shops and less isolating than working from home. It was in this environment that Adam Neumann and Miguel McKelvey met. Adam, a charismatic former Israeli naval officer, had moved to New York to chase entrepreneurial dreams, dabbling in several ventures, including a line of baby clothes with padded knees. Miguel, an architect from Oregon, was raised in a communal setting, giving him a natural sense for shared spaces and community design. In 2008, the two launched Green Desk, a small, eco-friendly co-working space in Dumbo, Brooklyn. They furnished the offices with recycled materials, emphasized sustainability, and offered flexible leases. It was a modest operation, but it quickly became profitable, and within a year they sold Green Desk to their landlord, using the proceeds to pursue something bigger. In 2010, they opened the first WeWork location at 154 Grand Street in Soho, Manhattan. It wasn't just a workspace, it was an experience. Exposed brick walls, communal kitchens, sleek wooden furniture, and open layouts gave it a distinctly modern feel. Freelancers and small startups flocked to it, drawn not just by affordability, but by the sense of belonging it fostered. Adam began pitching WeWork not as a real estate business, but as a movement. Investors started to listen, early funding followed, and the seeds of a global phenomenon were sown. Act 2, the meteoric rise. From 2014 onward, WeWork's growth shifted into overdrive. What had begun as a single Soho location quickly expanded into a global network of co-working spaces, stretching across North America, Europe, Asia, and South America. The company's brand became synonymous with a new way of working: open spaces filled with natural light, glass-walled meeting rooms, lounge areas designed for collaboration, and refrigerators stocked with kombucha and craft beer. WeWork wasn't just leasing space, it was selling culture. It told young entrepreneurs and startups that by joining WeWork, they were part of a global community, not just renting a desk, but joining a movement. The key to this rapid expansion was venture capital, and no investor played a larger role than Masayoshi Son, CEO of SoftBank. In 2017, during a meeting that reportedly lasted less than an hour, Son pledged $4.4 billion to WeWork through his $100 billion vision fund. According to accounts, Son told Adam to be crazier, urging him to expand aggressively and think on a planetary scale. With this backing, Adam envisioned WeWork not merely as an office company, but as a global infrastructure for living and working. WeWork opened locations in London, Shanghai, Buenos Aires, and dozens of other cities, signing massive long-term leases at a pace few had ever seen. The company began launching ambitious side projects. WeLive, their co-living venture, promised to bring the WeWork ethos into residential buildings, offering furnished apartments with shared kitchens, communal lounges, and weekly events. WeGrow, an experimental private elementary school founded by Adam's wife Rebecca, claimed to unleash every child's superpowers through a holistic education model. There were internal discussions about launching WeBank, WeSail, and even WeMars, as Adam spoke openly about WeWork as the company that would redefine how humans live on Earth and eventually beyond. To employees and investors, this wasn't just real estate, it was the future of civilization. Inside WeWork, the culture took on a cult-like intensity. All-hands meetings felt more like rock concerts than corporate gatherings, with employees chanting and cheering as Adam bounded across the stage barefoot, delivering impassioned speeches about changing the world. Annual summer camp retreats brought thousands of employees together in rural fields for days of partying, concerts, and team-building exercises. Employees described it as intoxicating, equal parts startup energy and spiritual revival. Adam was treated less like a CEO and more like a messianic figure, a charismatic leader who could seemingly bend reality through sheer will. By 2018, WeWork's valuation had soared to $20 billion, and by early 2019, it reached a staggering $47 billion, making it one of the most valuable private companies in the world. It was valued higher than Ford and nearly twice as high as Airbnb, despite the fact that WeWork was losing billions of dollars every year. But investors and the media were captivated by Adam's vision and SoftBank's backing. As long as growth continued, few questioned the fundamentals. WeWork became a symbol of the late 2000s startup boom, blending lifestyle branding, charismatic leadership, and limitless capital into a phenomenon that looked unstoppable from the outside. Act 3. The cracks appear. As WeWork's valuation skyrocketed, so did scrutiny. Behind the sleek branding and lofty mission statements, the company's financial model was alarmingly fragile. WeWork signed long-term leases, often for 10 or 15 years, on premium real estate in cities around the world. It then subleased those spaces to startups and freelancers on short-term, flexible contracts. This mismatch created enormous financial risk. If demand dropped, WeWork would still owe billions in rent to landlords, while its members could walk away at any time. By 2018, the company's annual losses exceeded $1.9 billion. But instead of slowing down, Adam pushed for even faster expansion, convinced that scale would solve everything. Inside the company, decision-making grew increasingly erratic. Former employees described a chaotic environment where major strategic pivots were made overnight based on Adam's impulses. Senior executives would learn about new initiatives at the same time as rank-and-file employees, often during Adam's charismatic speeches at all-hands meetings. There was little discipline around costs, with lavish spending on parties, perks, and private jets. Adam and his inner circle lived extravagantly, hosting late-night gatherings, flying around the world on Gulfstream jets, and purchasing luxury properties even as the company burned through cash at an unprecedented rate. Some of Adam's personal financial dealings raised eyebrows. In a controversial move, he personally trademarked the word "we," then sold the rights back to his own company for $5.9 million. He took out hundreds of millions of dollars in personal loans backed by his WeWork stock, while simultaneously selling off portions of his equity, even as he publicly claimed his commitment to the company was for life. He purchased buildings and then leased them back to WeWork, effectively becoming his company's landlord and collecting rent from both sides. For a company that portrayed itself as mission-driven, these moves painted a picture of a CEO who was enriching himself while projecting idealism. Then, in August 2019, WeWork filed its S-1 document with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the first step toward going public. For the first time, the world could see the company's financials in detail. What emerged was staggering. The filing revealed massive losses, questionable governance structures, and language that read more like a spiritual manifesto than a financial disclosure. The company's stated mission was to elevate the world's consciousness, and Adam was granted extraordinary control through a 3-class share structure that gave him 20 votes per share. Analysts and journalists immediately tore the document apart, calling it one of the most alarming IPO filings in years. Investor confidence began to unravel. Media outlets published damning exposés almost daily, scrutinizing WeWork's finances, Adam's behavior, and the company's culture. Employees leaked stories of disorganization and favoritism. The public narrative shifted rapidly from WeWork as a revolutionary tech company to WeWork as a cash-burning real estate firm with cultish overtones. Major institutional investors balked at the proposed valuation. The once inevitable IPO was postponed. Adam, once celebrated as a visionary, now found himself at the center of a media storm. His eccentricities, like talk of becoming the president of the world or banning meat company-wide, no longer sounded visionary. They sounded reckless. By late September 2019, under mounting pressure from investors and board members, Adam Neumann stepped down as CEO. His resignation was not the result of a single scandal, but rather a complete collapse of confidence. The man who had convinced the world to believe in a $47 billion dream had become a liability. And as Adam's star faded, the true scale of WeWork's instability came into focus. Act 4. Collapse and Legacy. In September 2019, amid mounting pressure, Adam Neumann stepped down as CEO. Reports of drug use, erratic flights, and self-dealing only fueled the fire. SoftBank executed a massive bailout, valuing the company at around $8 billion. Thousands of employees were laid off. Expansion plans were frozen. WeWork, once valued at $47 billion, is now fighting for survival. The COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 dealt another blow. With offices empty, WeWork's core business evaporated overnight. Yet against all odds, the company limped forward. In 2021, it finally went public through a SPAC at a fraction of its peak valuation. Adam Neumann walked away with over $1 billion despite the chaos. The story didn't end there. In 2022, Neumann launched a new real estate venture, Flow, backed once again by Andreessen Horowitz, proving that in Silicon Valley, redemption stories sell. Epilogue. WeWork's story is a cautionary tale of hype over substance, of charisma over accountability, and of a company that tried to be everything except what it actually was. It's also a reminder that in the modern tech economy, narratives can create billions until reality catches up. WeWork promised to elevate the world's consciousness. Instead, it elevated a single man to near mythic status before bringing him and his $47 billion dream crashing back to earth.